the struggles of trans men need to be heard and not just like brushed off as like, oh, you chose this, oh, you have male privilege, oh, you're part of the oppressor now, because this is also feeding in a lot of like issues that like cis guys face, and it is not doing anything good when you're like, oh, this person is born male, they are evil. That is turf rhetoric. That is what gender critical people say in order to target trans women. I saw a TikTok from Saber talking about like, oh, who has it harder, trans men or trans women, or, you know, non-binary people and so on. And she was talking about like the hyper visibility of trans women, because, you know, we're constantly on the focus. We are constantly having like a target on our back. The conversation is always about like trans women in women's sports, trans women in women's bathrooms, the predatory men in pretending to be women. And we are also like, when we are on social media, we are basically being harassed. We are basically constantly being criticized because we don't act like women, we don't sound like women, we don't, you know, look like women and whatnot. Compared to the hyper invisibility of trans men, basically erasing the struggles that trans men face, having no coverage. You know, when TERFs and so on are targeting trans men, then it's like, oh, they're just confused little girls who were shamed out of their womanhood and whatnot. There are a lot of trans women who are like, oh, I wish, you know, our transness was basically ignored. Because when it comes to trans men, if they are passing, then they're just cis guys. Wow, they are going to get elevated by the system, and they do not have to face like these struggles. Obviously, they face issues that other cis guys face. On the other hand, if a trans man doesn't pass, then, oh, that's just a butch lesbian. Basically erasing the identity of trans men by making it out to be like, oh, either you're passing and you get like cis guy privilege, or you're not passing and then you're just like a butch lesbian woman. You're never just like a trans man. You know, a lot of people are basically like ignoring that, ignoring the struggles that trans men face. When it comes to like, there was like the Trump admin, they shut down like educational programs and sex ed for trans men, because a lot of trans guys, you know, they are like on testosterone, and then they think that, oh, we do not need protection anymore, and it's causing a lot of unwanted pregnancies and so on. And there were funds being cut for this, because it's like, oh, you should just get like the same sex ed that, you know, cis girls would get, but that's just not, it just doesn't work, right? The problem when it comes to like, oh, why is trans even like a thing? It shouldn't be the goal that like a trans man is just the same as a cis man, you know, both are men. Or like on the other hand, when it comes to like trans women, oh, they're just women. Why even add like the adjective transness, transgender like in front of that? And the reason why is because like we need specific healthcare as well, right? There are specific measurements, specific educational systems and whatnot that should be in place for trans people. It's not that like cis education applies to like everything that you know, affects the trans bodies. The comparison of like, oh, okay, so the media attention and like the scrutiny and whatnot is always like on trans women. Everybody's focusing on trans women. Oh, the trans women are the evil. And people don't even know that trans men exist. They are different struggles, but we are always like, as a community, being invalidated. Like, completely. You know, when it comes to like trans women topics, they are asking like, I don't know, some gay dudes. They are the ones who are going on like BBC News talking about like trans topics, like some allies, some gay dude or whatnot. Trans men are only going to be brought up when it comes to the bathroom debate in order to be like, so you want to put trans men into women's restrooms because they are biologically female. There's this one debate, there's this one clip where there's like a Republican who never heard about like trans men before, and it was being brought up, and he didn't like understand that. He didn't get it. Yeah, trans women are 10 times visibility, trans men are ignored or excused. Yeah, because like, oh, you just look like a cis guy. When it comes to like dating, trans men are also like being invalidated, like gay trans men, even if they are passing, because like, oh, but you know, it's just a woman who looks like a man and making all the gay men straight. That applies to like trans women as well. The same discussions like when it comes to lesbians, because like trans women have like so much focus. Like Saber said that as well. They view the hyper invisibility of trans men as like a blessing, while their voices are being suppressed not just by the cis people, but also by the LGBTQ community, especially by trans women. So like to compare like struggles in that way is always bad. It is always bad. We should like uplift each other and give a platform to everyone. You know, even if you view trans men as privileged, because you know if they are cis passing, they get like male privilege and so on. It still doesn't excuse all of the invalidation. They literally confused a trans man for a trans woman who was competing in women's wrestling because of the bans. Oh, wasn't that like on a college level? Because I know that like trans men aren't allowed to compete at higher professional levels because they're taking testosterone, which is considered a performance enhancing drug. So they can only compete at a college level. Trans men are usually dismissed because our patriarchal society doesn't really see trans men as a threat to the status quo of gender roles most of the times. It's also like this thing of like, why do women get like masculine names, but you rarely see men with feminine names? It's because femininity is seen as degrading and masculinity is seen as like an upgrade. For a lot of people, the idea is basically like you were shamed out of your womanhood and now you think that you need to be like a man or whatnot. It is just being like undermined, being like, oh, you're just confused. I also made a video back then when it came to like the situation with the pissed off lawyer. Someone who used to or still identifies, or I don't know what's actually going on there, as a trans man who had a lot of like TERFs and gender critical people like dogpile on them, and got basically being bullied out of the trans man identity, being like, oh, I'm just a butch lesbian now. I just hated being born female because of like doctors or whatnot. I mean, like struggles with like endometriosis and whatnot. Which is like, yeah, you know, like system sucks, healthcare system sucks. But not an excuse to take away you know, healthcare and like the voices and whatnot from trans people. But a big strategy that like transphobes do is like this social conversion therapy, where they're like dogpiling on you, harassing you. And then, you know, if you give them an inch, they're going to like start love bombing you and then, you know, wearing you down, basically. It's the same when it comes to like trans women who then start identifying as a femboy because, you know, it's easier. And then they're just being like sexualized and whatnot even further. You also kind of saw that when it came to like Finster, when Finster came out as gender fluid and was no longer like a boy that looks like a girl. You know, a lot of the conversation changed. A lot of it was like more, you got infected by the woke mind virus, or you're a predator now, you're disgusting and whatnot. Like that happens. So we, like trans men, trans women, when it comes to like gender fluid people, obviously they face their own struggles that are like being dismissed, where like even people in the trans community are like, oh, it's not real anyways, because like it's just a fixed thing. You're not just like changing your identity on a day-to-day basis. When it comes to non-binary people, oh, it's just a man who wants to be more appealing to feminism. And you know, if you know someone is AFAB and non-binary, then it's like, oh, this is just like a quirky personality. So it's like being invalidated as a sense of like, oh, it's not real anyway. And that also comes from other people who are trans, right? It's a big issue. A lot of trans people also do this. So sake of people trying to control other people, yeah. On that topic, a lot of trans men who struggle with the male loneliness and stuff like that get just, well, you chose to be a man, so it's your own fault. Or on TikTok, that trans guy, and everyone called him an incel, but he actually brought up a very nuanced point about being male in a lot of queer spaces. Oh yeah, that's also like a huge issue. It's like, oh, you have male privilege. When a trans man talks about like how they were socialized as, you know, a girl, and they had like friendships, and then this all shifted when they started passing as a guy, you know, now being seen as like a threat, you know, how you can't like connect in the same sense anymore. Women perceive you differently, and like male friendships suck and whatnot. These are real issues that need to be addressed. But obviously a lot of people, especially in a lot of like queer spaces, they see like, okay, cis straight guy, That is just like a huge problem, and they are suffering under the system, but they are still, they still have privileges, and they are the ones who set it up, which is not the case, right? Because people in power made the patriarchy. It's not like a big men's club, right? Where there are a lot of like trans men being bullied out of these spaces. A lot of trans men being bullied out of the queer spaces like that. And that sucks. That is painful, especially if you know like how your relationships with other people were before you came out, before you transitioned. And I think that needs to be addressed. People need to like hear that out more. So yeah, being trans sucks. And I think trans people, doesn't matter if non-binary, doesn't matter if gender fluid or, trans men, trans women, we highlight a lot of societal issues. We are in a unique position when it comes to like living in society, suffering under the system. And I think it is really important to give us the platforms that we need in order to boost our voices. And sometimes doesn't help us out with the bait captions. She posts along her pictures, but the hate they get is absolutely disproportional to that. Yeah, Finn does a lot of like rage baiting stuff on Twitter. She's fully detransitioned now. She's an open turf now. I can't even like follow up with the pissed off lawyer stuff. I had someone like leave a comment telling me like, oh, you should like look into that more again, make like a follow-up video. But it's like, I'm so out of it. I just like blocked this person and like, okay, if you don't understand, like the pissed off lawyer was like trans men being active, fighting a lot of like turfs and whatnot, being in a lot of like discords with these people, talking a lot with like gender critical people, and being like invested in like a lot of like these spaces, a lot of turf spaces, and then was like, oh yeah, I'm now no longer trans, I'm still on testosterone or whatnot, like this phase. And then it turned into like, no, I was actually just undercover in the turf spaces and trying to gain their sympathy. The moment this person posted on Twitter being like, turfs are right, trans men don't exist, I am not a trans man, I was just shamed for my womanhood, and now I'm no longer shamed for my womanhood, and I need to embrace this and connect with my femininity. J.K. Rowling, first thing, coming out of the blog being like, you're so stunning and brave, thank you so much for speaking your truth, can you DM me? And then, this person was like, thank you, J.K. Rowling, thank you so much. Obviously, a lot of people were pissed because, like, sure, if you want to detransition and whatnot, that's valid, right? Like, detransitioners deserve to be heard. Your voices need to be elevated, because, like, when it comes to, like, detransitioners, obviously a lot of people are forced to detransition because of, like, economic reasons. And if it's, like, someone who is like, oh, I'm, like, rekindling with my assigned gender at birth or whatnot, like, that's valid. But if you make, like, a living by grifting to people who want to take away our healthcare, and you're like, oh, we need to talk about, like, female detransition rates and whatnot, like, obviously a lot of people are getting pissed off at that, because that's turf rhetoric. So that was, like, a whole big situation. So yeah, that's kind of like something that I wanted to talk about, like the struggles. And I think the LGBTQ community needs to do a better job at like uplifting marginalized groups and giving more visibility to trans men, and also taking off a little bit of the heat of trans women by boosting the experiences and whatnot of trans women, instead of always doing like the, oh, this bad person came out as trans, no, we just condemn them, no, this is not one of us, no, we condemn them. Like what they are doing to me as well, where there are people actually who are like, I'm trans, and Nyara is doing a lot of harm to the trans community, and like, I don't even think that she's trans, I think that's just like a shield in order to be bad, which is obviously a little bit up, not gonna lie. Honestly, I have to say that as a part of allyship, people should build others up, realistically validate the feelings others face regarding gender fluid and non-binary friends. On that topic, because silence is murder, everyone should talk about the ever-present issues and enable better spaces. It should be much safer. Regarding even detransitioning, to put a stop to everything else that harms life in general. Yeah, the thing is, like, the struggles of trans men need to be heard and not just like brushed off as like, oh, you chose this, oh, you have male privilege, oh, you're part of the oppressor now, because this is also feeding in a lot of like issues that like cis guys face, right? And it is not doing anything good for like, you know, feminism and gender equality and whatnot, when you're like, oh, this person is born male, they are evil. That is turf rhetoric. That is what gender critical people say in order to target trans women. To be like, it is in your DNA to be a predator and you're evil because you're born male and now you're pretending to be a woman in order to give the weak female a sense of like, you know, safety in order to exploit them. That is tough rhetoric. Translator told me those things about you. Nia was bullshit, but it did make me leave her community. That's wild.